And welcome to the Comic Corner. My name is Damon, and he is Keith Williams,
Hey guys.
legendary inker. He's done books like Action Comics, She-Hulk, The Phantom. I could keep going, but then I just run out of time. Keith, how are you today?
I'm doing great today, Damon. Actually got some sleep, so I'm good.
Ooh, that's always important. Get a nap and get some good sleeping, get some good
Oh
resting
yeah, absolutely.
during the day. So one of my first questions I always ask someone whenever they come on is what is your comic book origin story? I don't necessarily mean how you got into the comic industry as an artist, but how you got in as a fan.
Wow. Okay. That was when I was a little kid. Trying to remember exactly what the age was. Probably 8, 9 years old. My grandma, she gave me one of my first comic books. It was a Batman comic. She would come over every weekend with comic books for me to read, and I just loved it.
So is
And
Batman your favorite growing up?
yeah, he still is actually.
Nice.
He still is. And it was always fun reading the adventures, like the stories, and like guys and superheroes in cool costumes and the villains and stuff like that. And after a while, I got into drawing a little bit, but I was basically drawing like stick figures or weird little figures, things, stuff like that. But I always felt like I wanted to draw those characters because they were so cool,
Mhm.
and maybe, and unfortunately, I had a friend of mine that was also felt the same way, and we lived in the projects, and we would go out in the hallway of our floor, second floor, and we'd sit down and we'd just draw things, draw comic books, and for me, it was a great, it was a great feeling. I really enjoyed doing it. My friend, he moved on to other things, but I just kept drawing them, to the point where finally, a while later, my parents finally decided to get me a real drawing table, which was really nice of them because I was usually like drawing, like on a dining at the dining room table with a
Mhm.
little board, sitting there propped there, and I was drawing in there. But they got me one so that I could work in my bedroom. That also had that also had my two brothers there too, and that was like a kind of cramped space, but I made it work.
There you
Oh
go.
yeah, yeah. That's
There you
that's
go.
and it just kept going from there.
I always love stories that start very, very young because everyone has a different story. Some people they don't start till later in life. We've had Sean Isaacs from South Africa. He kind of started out younger drawing, and then he kind of got back into it later in life. And you've been the type of guy that's been in it for a long, long time. And one of the things you've been known for is just inking. Yeah, you've won the Inkwell Above and Beyond Award last year in 2023, and we've always say comics it's kind of like it's a big band, everyone plays their part. You have
True.
your writer, you have your artist that could be a penciler or an inker like yourself, a
Yep.
colorist, letterer. There's a lot of different parts when it comes to comics. What is it about inking that stands out?
Well, actually, that's that's what you see at the end of a book. Like when you pick up the comic book, the cover, the interiors of the book is the inks. Uh, the penciler gets the story from the writer, and has a blank piece of paper, puts it down on that paper. The cover that tells you what's interesting inside the story, make you go and want to read it, and then you open up the book and you see all the pages. So what the penciler does is he puts down the artwork. What we do is make it so that it's printable, especially back in the past, before Photoshop, things like that. You needed an inker to put down a black line over the gray. Uh, we would usually use Indian ink, Indian black ink, and our tools would at that moment in time, back in the 80s, the 90s, would be a Crow pen, that you would dip into an ink bottle, and you would ink that way. And also you can use a brush, which my brush is usually a Winsor Newton Series 7 number 3 and number 2 brush. uh, and you would put down lines that are not exactly the lines that the penciler has on the paper, because sometimes it can be pretty sketchy,
Mhm.
or they might have something there that might need to be corrected, uh, especially when it comes to things like buildings and cars and things like that. An inker needs to know, besides anatomy, he has to know perspective. He needs to know texture for different materials that you're going to see. Anything from like clothes that have folds in them, to stone that has a different kind of surface and feel to it. You have to interpret those different kinds of things. Cars that have shines on them, you want to have a metallic look and
Mm.
a nice shine on it. So to make it look as real as possible for a 2D drawer. So some and also when a pencil works on a book, it could be full pencils, which is almost everything is down there, so maybe you don't have to work as hard. You could, like, work with just what he has, like maybe enhance it a little bit. Or you have layouts, which sometimes does not have any kind of shading or any kind of blacks in them. We would have to figure out, like where the lighting's coming from,
Mm.
and put it down to give it a more structured look, more, like more feeling of realism. Yeah, and sometimes when we do that, you would get paid a little bit more for that, because that's extra work.
So,
Um,
so in some ways, you're almost like the last line of defense in the way of making things almost like you look right. If you look at a building, it's a little wonky, or you're kind of like the last line. Be like, let's make this look a little more proper. Now, before it goes to the colorist, where they can just add that extra pop to it.
right, exactly, exactly. Like some people may not notice it, but like some people do. If things are like a little off, and it'll take them out of the story, you try and make it so that they feel that everything is flowing right. So yeah.
Because you don't want to change the art style too much. You're just kind of there just to make sure everything is consistent.
That's right. There are different kinds of inkers. Like there are
Mhm.
inkers that are pencilers also.
Yep.
They have their own kind of way of drawing a picture, and sometimes it could overwhelm, like the pencils that are already there. But sometimes that's what they want too. You just don't know. Like, I'm more of a guy that doesn't really have, like a serious style. So I try to, like more go with what I see on the page, like, and I make decisions on if, like, I'm going to use a brush, or I'm going to use or which is more organic,
Mhm.
or to use a Cocoa pen, which gives you more of a harder, line. Uh, there's a lot of thinking that goes into, like, putting down that first line to the second line to the third, and especially if you're just starting with this person, this penciler, you got to figure out what your rhythm's going to be to do, your thing on his pencils.
So it's good to have a good relationship with the penciler then.
It is that definitely. But I'll tell you, like, sometimes I don't meet the penciler, and
Oh.
like, I'm there just doing the inks and keeping my fingers crossed that he would like it, because I, I yeah, I have to feel like they're gonna like it,
Mhm.
that they're happy with what I'm doing to their stuff, that they're not saying, "Oh, geez, this is definitely not what I was looking for."
Mhm.
He's making it look like it's nighttime when it was supposed to be daytime. I just don't understand what's wrong with this guy. He's
It's 12 in the
yeah, so
afternoon, not 12 in the morning.
yeah, right, exactly. So yeah, I like for the artist to like what I'm doing, and I like for the editor that picked
Mm.
me to do this to like what I'm doing.
So you traditionally like doing the inks kind of the old-fashioned way with either a pen or a brush. Have you ever experimented or done digital inks, or is just
Oh
strictly
yeah.
traditional?
Mm-mm. No, no, no. I'm trying to learn everything. I'm always
Hmm.
continuously learning all the new things that are out there. I have a Wacom tablet
Hmm.
that I use, and I basically use it to figure out my drawings. Uh, and sometimes if I'm in a real hurry and I have to get something done right away, I would ink on a tablet. Like so,
Hmm.
I would do that. There are a lot of different tools now. You have the micron pens. You have other markers that are brushes
Mm.
that you can use. Less time dipping, and you can get through something a little faster. Unfortunately, the inks or whatever it is that they use that's inside those markers, their quality stays longer. Like it doesn't turn purple or like it just has that black,
Mm.
like sheen, and it stays there. It doesn't age quickly, which is good.
Is there something you'd miss that isn't there, like, on digital side that's just, like, the real pens, the real brushes, it's like, this just has it over digital
Oh yeah,
always?
right. Yeah, absolutely. Paper.
Mm.
I love working on paper. I love working on the real stuff. And like I think everybody, like should learn the the old school style first before you jump on to the digital. Or you can do both of them at the same time, but just to get that feel, like on the like on the Wacom tablet, like it's smooth. It's very smooth.
Mhm.
Whereas when you're working on paper, you get a little bit of a give. You know, it just has a different kind of feel to it. And I like that. I like that feeling.
Mm.
And so when I mostly work on a tablet and I get my stuff done to a certain point, I would transfer it uh, onto paper. I would have it printed out on my printer, and I turn it over, and I would use graphite and
Mhm.
do the whole back of it, and then place it down onto some Bristol paper or Bristol board or whatever, and then I would draw over it. I know that's an extra step, it is, but sometimes people don't like to see the blue. You can also reproduce blue lines
Mhm.
and ink over that, which would be a lot quicker. But some people don't like to see that blue line, so
That's true.
that's why I would take that extra step. And yeah, and it helps sometimes when it comes when like after I used it for whatever I used it for, if I wanted to sell it, they look at it and they could see that it's just like they would probably imagine it to be, maybe some pencil lines are still there somewhere, but like it's
Mhm.
but the inking, yeah, it looks like his original piece.
It's beautiful. So I wanna go all the way back to when you first got into the field, when you're getting into it. We talked about how you got into comics and how you started drawing, but let's talk about how you got into the business. How'd you get there?
Yeah. Oh wow. I was very fortunate. I was continuously going back to my high school for school shows. I was doing backgrounds and back which was on like gigantic backdrops that
Mhm.
you would have for the school shows. And they would have these things called sing, so that all the different grades would compete against each other. So at one of the times when I was coming back to the school as an advisor, I met Howard Perlin,
Mm.
who just happened to be Don Perlin's son. And he asked me if I was interested in coming over and meeting his dad. And I said, well, yeah, that I, yeah. He did Werewolf by Night, Ghost Rider.
Yeah,
He did,
it's just
I
like,
mean, this
don't
guy.
say no to that.
Good grief. Like, and he was also like the art director at Marvel for a time too. And I just said, yeah, sure. And little did I know that he lived only like about 2 blocks away from the projects that I lived in. So I was able to
Wow.
just walk over there with my stuff. And I showed him, which he is a really nice guy. I showed him my Marvel tryout book that they had at the time with John Romita Jr.
Mm.
doing blue line pencils of Spider-Man, and he looked at that and he liked what he saw. Like he figured that I still needed more work on figure, like work on with inking.
Mm.
But I would come over every once in a while, show him stuff. He'd show me things and stuff, and give me tips and stuff, which was great. I ended up working at my old school as a paraprofessional, and I was almost thinking that might have been the direction that my career was going to be going, maybe teaching art, something like that. But Don Perlin called, and he asked me if I was interested in doing some background inking work for one of the inkers at Marvel. They were looking for somebody to help out uh, Mike Esposito,
Wow.
who was a big inker, at that time. He was probably really busy on book Marvel Team Up.
Mm.
So I said, yeah, of course. So I actually went up to Marvel, got the pages, and it was like absolutely amazing being up there and feeling like I was actually going to start to work there and everything. So the pages, the pencil was Jim Mooney,
Hmm.
I think at the
Oh,
time, and I had to ink everything but the foregrounds and everything but the figure works. So I was thinking the cars, the buildings, stuff like that. So it's like really sort of like an intern, like learning how to do, like the stuff, like for real on paper and getting paid for it,
hmm.
which
That's
was
always
was
good.
great.
That's always
Yep.
good.
And yeah, absolutely. And I was doing that while I was also doing the paraprofessional work. So during the daytime, I was at the school working, and at night, I literally working until like maybe 3 in the morning, getting the background pages done. So what happened was that I started getting more work. I guess like they really liked what I was doing with the other people's work, and my name got around, and I ended up working for like Joe Sinnott,
Wow.
who at the time was doing the Avengers with
Hmm.
Al Milgrom. So I was doing tons of Quinjets and Avengers mansions and every other weird thing that Al could have thrown on that page. I was inking it, but I wasn't just inking it. The thing was that I was trying to ink it in the style of what would Joe how would Joe Sennett ink this page. So like I was doing research at the same time as like I was inking stuff with him, like so that we would mesh right.
Mm.
So that also taught me, like a few more things as I was going along, like thick and thin lines, like depth perception in a comic book, whereas like the figures in the foreground would have a thicker line weight on them, and when I would put down my line weight, unless something was closer than the figure that he was drawing, like that he was inking, that the lines be thinner as they fall off into the background.
Oh.
If you
The
look,
little things like that, that's fascinating.
well, you see, if you're
Yeah.
looking in real life,
Mhm.
you see less detail as you go further back.
Mhm.
Like if you're watching a movie or whatever. So you just like you don't have to get too crazy with everything. Like
Yeah.
with making sure that every shadow's there, every line is, you know, just enough so that like you could say that that's a city or that's the inside of somebody's house. You're
Mhm.
looking at the back, you're seeing the dining room in the background, maybe or something like that. Just enough. So I was while I was doing that, I was learning all this stuff, which was really great. So I worked for a bunch of other people like Andy Mashinsky, Bob Wyacek,
Mm.
uh, loads of different Terry Austin,
Mm.
for actually for one Superman book, and then I ended up working for John Byrne
Yeah.
on
Big name.
Alpha.
That's a big name.
Yes, 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 he's a big guy, incredible, incredible person. I'm telling you, I worked with him on the Hulk, and Alpha Flight, the Hulk.
Mm,
And then when he left Marvel and moved over to DC, when he was starting to do that, the whole Superman revisioning thing,
mhm,
I ended up working with him on Action Comics.
yeah.
And and the most amazing thing about him, like showing what an actual big heart he has, though people may think he does, but he does have a big heart, was that he put my name on inside the books, introducing me in Alpha Flight as the background inker for him, and then he carried my name through to all of the issues after that for that and for the Hulk, and then for Action Comics, he put my name on the front with him,
Wow.
which was absolutely amazing, because it was like basically he was writing and penciling everything, and then like background inker Keith Williams or something like that was there, which really blew my mind. It was something that he never had to do. None of the other inkers did it, but I still enjoyed working with that. Like nothing on it because that's something that you don't usually do.
Mm,
That I'm just working. Like I wasn't thinking that he would do something like that. But it was very nice of him, and it got my name out there, which I guess really helped a lot. And yeah, like I'll always remember him for that. And that it was really nice of him. And yeah, and then like I started to get things like Sectors, which was like a
mm.
toy company kind of thing, like with the bugs that you could use put your hands in the glove and you could use like and it's like this bug thing and you could use your fingers to make it look like it's moving around and stuff like that. Yeah, so we did it to make it look and like make
Mm.
very dramatic. It was pretty cool. Steve Geiger was the penciler on that, uh, and just went on from there. Lucky enough to get Transformers for a little bit,
Mm,
but uh, one of the other great things about working there and being in New York, being in a city, being able to go up to the company all the time with your pages after you're finished. You're not sending them off in Federal Express, just going right up there. You can hear things going on. If like I heard that John Romita was going to start an internship program for art correcting and stuff like that.
mm.
And he was the art director at the time, and I went in to the office and I said, "Hey, I want to do this." Like I just I want to do this. So they actually said, "Okay," like and ended up becoming an actual employee of Marvel, coming in every day, and I was part of the Romita Raiders. I was actually the first one
Oh, wow.
to be there. That's what the great thing is about going into the office every
Yeah.
day, and you stumble on into some office and you hear things. I can you just say, "Hey, I want to do this," and work.
What's the craziest kind of like office like you've walked by and you see a name and you're like, wow, I'm here.
Oh wow, well, geez, all of them because I was reading their comic books.
Mm-hmm.
And I always saw the editors, like the editor was the last name that was on that list that was going across the, like bottom part of the
Mm-hmm.
comic book page, so you get to see Mark Grunwald,
Mm.
you get to see Larry Hama, you get to see
Wow.
Carl Potts, you get to see Ralph Macchio, you know, good grief. And there was like Bob Harris, like, but
Mm,
at the time he was like an assistant editor, and I get to see Howard Mackey, another guy that was an assistant editor,
mm,
Dwayne McDuffie,
mhm,
who was assistant editor, but went on to doing Justice League and Justice League Unlimited and stuff like that.
mhm,
It was a mind blowing experience. It was a dream come true to actually be in in the Marvel bullpen that
mm.
they always talked about.
The famous
It,
Marvel bullpen.
yeah, in the back of the comics, they talk about the Marvel bullpen
Yep.
and all the stuff that was going on in there, and to actually be there, and that it didn't have this corporate vibe. It was like a mom and pop thing,
Wow.
and then you have Jim Shooter that's there, and he's I guess, oh my god, you know. So yeah, it was. I got to say that every time, every day that I walked in there was like it was amazing that I it's almost have like an imposter syndrome kind of thing. You just like, it's like I'm here. Why am I here? How did I like get in here and I'm doing all this cool stuff and talking to these people that I basically like read their books and it's amazing. Yeah.
I think we all have a little bit of that no matter what we do in our lives. And one of my favorite panels recently is in a Tom Taylor Nightwing book, and Dick Grayson's sitting there and he's like, I think I do have a superpower. It's enhanced imposter syndrome. And it's a great line. I was just like, man, that's an
It
all-timer.
is. Yes.
That's an all-timer. So do
Yes,
you, out of all the
absolutely.
characters you've done, I mean, She-Hulk, the Avengers, so that's countless characters right there. Superman, Marvel, DC. Is there one that when you got to draw them, you're like, I got to draw, I got to do inks for this character?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. I mean, I watched the show when I was a kid. Okay, yeah,
Mhm,
and when I was like old enough to like just like like tell my parents, hey, like I want to buy these books. Like I want like when you go to the store, you pick up the comic books in the candy store and stuff. Like and you read them, you say, oh wow, that's so cool. But then to actually like work on the flagship book,
mhm,
Spider-Man, it was like absolutely incredible. Before I even really worked on the book Web of Spider-Man, I while I was still a Raider, a Romita Raider, Jim Owsley was promoted to editor, and the books that he had to edit were the Spider-Man books. And he came over to me, he saw me there, and he says, "Hey, Pete, you want to be my assistant editor?" I said, what? Really? He goes, yeah, yeah, it's gonna be cool. So yeah, this is Jim House, who was Christopher Priest, who doing things later on. We'll be doing things like the Black Panther and all this other stuff.
mhm,
And like I said, yeah, sure, why not? Let's give it a whirl. So for a good 9 months, I was an assistant editor of the Spider-Man books.
mhm.
So,
Wow.
you know, okay, got to edit them, got to know Spider-Man intimately, and then to like a little later on, becoming like the inker on one of the books. Uh, it's absolutely incredible. It was, that's what I got to say. It is the best.
And you
I
had
mean,
Romita there
even
to
with
kind
the
of
costumes, even with the
all
costume, with
together.
all the webbing and stuff like that, I don't care.
Yeah.
'Cause it was just a great, like thing to have to do, and like yeah, yeah, it's great.
It's crazy. And like I said, yeah, John Romita Sr. there too, just to
Yes,
put the cherry on top of all that. Like that's incredible.
John Romita Sr. Yes,
That's
yes,
incredible.
absolutely.
Before we go, do you have any advice to newer artists who want to break, not just even break into the field, but just kind of like getting started as artists themselves? Like any base level, like what would you suggest for them to do?
Well, I guess I could say, yeah, you have to be able to show your work. Like let people see it. Okay. Y y it would be great to go to conventions, you know, w and just show your work. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, okay?
Mhm,
But you need a start off point to get somebody to be able to tell you what you need to do. So, like if you can go to a show, show your work, they could like inform you if like well, this looks great, and sometimes the artwork is amazing, okay? But they're not showing storytelling technique. They're not giving
mhm,
you, like an idea that you could do things other than just incredible figures posed, in some kind of like poster print kind of thing. That's great, but you gotta be able to tell a story. with the characters. You gotta, and not just with them fighting, and things like that. You gotta have, like what Byrne would do, have them like sitting down having a cup of coffee, like walking through a room somewhere. The stuff, the everyday stuff that happens in between all the craziness that's going to happen, the destruction of New York and stuff like that. Like you got to show that. You got to, and speaking of New York, you got to be able to draw cities, buildings, like cars, things like that. Like yeah, and everybody has a different style. Like that's fine, and that's great. You basically need storytelling. You got to be able to tell the story of what's going on with your character, and you got to be able to do it in a way so that you could um look at it without words. Okay, so that's what I think. You could be a penciler, and if you're a great penciler, that's great. If you're a so inker, don't ink your own pencils. Just do the pencils. If you're a great inker, show that you're a great inker. Get some pages from somewhere. There's usually a lot on the internet now that you can probably print up and use and work on to work on your skills and stuff, and show that. Like if you want to be a colorist, show you're being a colorist. If you feel like you can do everything, show it. But it's like show the best. Like when you like that, show your best work.
Mm.
And don't say, oh well, like I know I didn't draw those hands in. I was going to do that later. No, 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 no. Just you got it. You got to show the person the full thing, and then afterwards, that most likely will be criticism.
Mm.
Take the criticism for what it is.
Mm.
There may be things that you might not like to hear, but it's in a way good. You could later on take out the stuff that you may not, like agree with at the moment, and just like whatever like you hear that may sound like good might be helpful to you. You can keep that,
Mm.
because we all have different. I don't want to make anybody draw me like me. Like I'm not going to tell you no. This is how you have to do it, because I've seen so many different kinds of styles now, and I see a lot of them as jumping off points where they could go on to something that could be absolutely amazing if they're allowed to be let loose, and like just keep going in that direction and evolve in that direction, instead of like saying, oh well, I should look more like Keith Williams, I should look more like John Byrne, or I should ink more like Sennett and stuff like that. For some people that might not be their thing, but
Mm.
take take the criticism at that time, and just like go along with it. Don't like I mean, some people could get angry, could get upset because they feel like you're tearing down their work and stuff like that. You can feel like that, but like just take a deep breath, and say thank you so much. You know, be like just just like I said, take it the way it is, and
Mm.
then you can go home. If you want to go home and then scream and everything and go crazy, say, "I'll show you, I'll show you." Like, yeah, fine, that's fine later. But like because you might want to go back to this person again. You might want
Mm.
to, like show them that things have improved, that you're going along a certain way, and in a way, that's almost like a way of the person that you're showing it to being almost like a little bit like a teacher to you, because you're coming back with new stuff, and they could then say, "Oh, this is great. This looks better. This looks," like I mean, just don't burn your bridges.
I love what you said. And I think it's a great ending point. I love what you said just about the superheroes and the small moments, not the big fights, but having them express them as just people. And that's when, a comic really stands out when you're able to see the expressions. I'm sitting down for a coffee, them reflecting upon their day. I mean, people love Spider Man because he's not just Spider Man, but because he's Peter Parker. He's a kid,
That's right.
right?
Yes, yes.
So
Aunt
that's
May,
the perfect thing
and
about it.
yeah, Peter Parker and Aunt May together at the table. And
Right.
Aunt May is getting Peter maybe some cookies or some coffee or something like that. And he's sitting there saying, "Oh, I really love Aunt May. I'm never going to tell him Spider-Man because I don't want to give her a heart attack." I mean, it's those things. Sometimes it's the quiet moments that make a comic book.
Absolutely. Keith, thank you so much for taking the time. I always leave this opportunity now to be like, where can people find you on the internet, at conventions, Instagram,
Oh,
wherever?
okay. Well, you can find me on Instagram on Keith Williams Comic Book Art. I'm also on Facebook, Keith Williams. I usually have like a phantom ring on that that I'm smiling. I'm going like that, so you'll know it's me. And you could DM me if you're interested in any kind of artwork. If you want me to do something for you, I could tell you the prices and stuff. I'm also right now working on something that's called Philandra for Blake Zarowski. So I'm doing a cover for them. I'm also doing a cover for this character Johnny Dollar, which is
Mhm.
really cool. Yeah, so there's things like moving around and convention wise. I'm going to be at the Big Lick Comic Con in Roanoke, Virginia this weekend. And there's like a bunch of other ones, Terrificon, CT GamerCon, like also New York Comic Con, like when it comes up later on, like I'll be at Awesome Con. I'm at a convention almost every week or every other week. Uh, yeah, yeah.
Convention
So
season, it never ends, Keith. It never
no,
ends.
no,
Once
it
when you
does.
get that notification and it's like, oh, here we go again, and you're
There you
just
go.
right back into it. Right
Exactly.
back into it.
Oh
Keith,
yeah, yeah, nonstop, nonstop.
Keith,
But
once
yeah,
again,
that's
thank you
where you
so
can find me,
much.
guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You can find me on Twitter at Damon Tweet. You can find me on Instagram or Threads. Where you can find me on the internet. It's fine. I'm in places. I have a theme. On TikTok, I'm Damon Talks Comics. On Instagram, I'm Damon Doc Graham. Like it's you can find me. It's fine. Shout out BoomTube Comics for making this happen. Dan and BoomTube Comics in Southington.
Yes,
You're awesome. We
yes,
love you. The best
yes,
comic
we
shop
do.
in
Yes.
Connecticut, New England, all of it. That's been this issue. This issue. I'm going to say this issue now. This issue of the Comic Corner. We do episodes every other week talking about the new comics that came out that week or the last few weeks. Comic book news, anything DC related, Marvel related. We talk about it. It's me, my buddy AF, and whoever else we have on. We also have a comic book reading club that happens every month or so, where we have a bunch of group of good friends of mine who've never read comics before, and we sit down and we read a comic together. The last month, if you want to check it out, was Superman for All Seasons. This month in February, we are doing Tom Taylor's first volume of Nightwing Into the Light, which I love that book so dearly. Keith, once again, thank you very much for your time. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you at Terrificon or CT GamerCon
Absolutely.
or ConCon, just all the cons.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Damon. Thank you, everybody. Take
Go
care.
support your local comic shop.